High earning black females are really having it tough in the dating scene. And we're gonna hear it from them.
Successful women have a hard time finding men, right, to be with and to date, right? And I believe it's really from a standpoint where it's how that man views that woman as they see her as a CEO, as an entrepreneur, as a boss, right? But what if you was to explore that, it's a lot of successful women, educated women that are willing to be submissive, right? Like, I tell people all the time, like, I have to lean into a masculinity side because that's where my survival mode lies, right? Like, that's for my survival. I got to get into that, right? But no woman does not want to be protected, provided for, loved on, cared for, right? So it's like, if I had the man to show up and do what he needed to do, like, first of all, even if he couldn't match my level of success, I'ma still be submissive because I know who I am as a woman. You get what I'm saying? And I would never disrespect his manhood, regardless of what level we are on with each other in our careers, success, or anything like that. But now some men, they can't handle it, even if that woman is willing to be submissive, right? Like that's something that ain't got nothing to do with me. He might feel it's an attack on his manhood because his woman make more money than him, or because she's more successful, or she's in a limelight, right? And he may feel like it's an imbalance, but I really tell people, like, I can be a boss and a CEO and business and things like that, but at home, I want to be nothing but the woman. I don't want to wear the pants. If I try to be the dominant, it's going to create an imbalance in our relationship.
Or the day before, I did an Instagram questions thing. And one of the questions was about whether I thought that being successful has impacted my dating life. I feel like the kind of undertone was that it would be harder to date as a successful woman. So I've said, I think it has, but not negatively. And people were messaging me and they were like, oh, what do you mean by not negatively? So, sorry, to give context, I am a lawyer, I'm an artist manager, I'm very vocal about stuff that I do now, even though I didn't used to be. And I guess in that sense, I'm visibly successful as opposed to someone who might be successful but doesn't say it or whatever. So I basically said back to the people that were asking, I was like, for me, I feel like, number one, it naturally makes my standards a bit higher because you don't want to just date anybody and you kind of feel like you have more to lose. So you just naturally have higher standards in terms of the kind of people that you feel like you should let into your life, right? And the other thing, which is less in my control, I guess, but in a way, being successful, doing certain things with your life, being in certain spaces, it means that you're going to be around people who are kind of similar to you, so who you might not have had the chance, you know what I mean? People that you might not have otherwise been around. So that for me is my explanation as to why it's not necessarily a bad thing to date as a successful woman. It's not necessarily harder. It's just different. But people have asked me if I'm conscious about the fact that men might be intimidated by me or, I guess kind of, put off by the fact that you're a successful woman. And it's made me think a lot. I understand that the dating pool as a successful woman, I guess especially as a successful black woman, is going to be smaller. But I guess the whole thing about, dimming your shine or not being too vocal about things, or the thought that you might scare a man away because you are successful or you look like you've got a lot of money or whatever it might be. I find it very hard to process. In my mind, I'm not going to change unless it's something that's negative about me, in which case fine. I'm not going to change anything about myself so that somebody else who might come in will feel more comfortable.
But I do think it is a lot harder to date as a woman high earner, and especially as a black woman high earner. And there's a couple of reasons why I think that is the case, but generally speaking, it is harder to date. And in my experience, one thing that I have noticed is that men, when they like come into your sphere, especially if you're someone who's not necessarily like withdrawn or or like quiet per se, right? Like you have opinions and they don't like that, right? And some of them, they just want you to like shut up and be quiet and just be behind them, and that's not me. But also like others of them, they're just jealous, and obviously it's not like they're saying to you, oh, I'm jealous, but you can see that they're jealous because they'll make like snide comments, or they'll be like, or like little things along those lines. Or some of them, I wouldn't attribute this one to jealousy, but just more so like they want to be kept. They'll say like, you're the one with all the money, you know? And sometimes jokingly, we're just like, okay, but that's not a funny joke if I don't know you. So I will say like for those reasons, it is a lot harder. But also another reason it's harder in general, I think, is because once you are making above a certain amount, you usually have a certain kind of lifestyle. And if you want to maintain that lifestyle, but also include your significant other in that lifestyle, they do have to be making within that range, right? I'm not saying that I will only date someone who makes more than me. That's absolutely not the case. But you do need to be probably making, you know, like low to mid six figures, somewhere like 200 or higher, in order for us to have the lifestyle that I envision myself living. And mind you, I'm still working towards the lifestyle that I want to be living. But if I like to take vacations and I like to buy, diversify my investments and do all these different kinds of things, you need to be able to do that too, right? Like I'm not here just funding your lifestyle. We need to be able to do this together. And so naturally, you have to have some sort of, you know, cushion on your own before you come into my sphere, or before we can even really get along or be in the same like tax bracket. But again, I wouldn't say like he has to make more than me, but he does need to make close to it, or somewhere that would allow him to still be in that same area or same arena of what it is, of what my lifestyle is like and what I'm hoping it to be, right? Because the goal for me is at least to build generational wealth, and you can do that from a full-time job. I work full-time, but I also have significant side hustles, and yeah, it takes a lot of time, but to me it's worth it, right? Because I'm young, I have the time, I have the energy, and then later on in life, I'm just going to be able to like chill and just live off of what the hard work that I've been putting in now. You had replied to this and also asked about like splitting expenses and different things like that. I don't believe in, you know, like merging money or anything like that unless I am married, which I am not. And so I wasn't doing any of that. In terms of like dating, I still do think a man, especially for the first few dates, needs to be paying for the dates. Like they need to be doing the courting, the courtship, all of that. To kind of sum up, because it's just long, dating is a lot more difficult.
Since I'm turning 30 next year, I've been thinking a lot about the next phase of my life and what I want to do moving forward, if I want to settle down, if I want to have kids. It's all been on my mind. So I think it's really important for us to have these conversations about Black women, specifically Black professional women who are college educated, and dating standards. It's really interesting because this is the exact same conversation that Ebony K. Williams was having with Iyanla when she asked her if she would date a bus driver. And quite honestly, I thought that was really disrespectful, because why would you ask a woman who has a thriving legal career, who's a multimillionaire, if she would date a bus driver? And I know it was supposed to be some type of gotcha moment or to humble her, because I think society at large really wants to humble Black women. I think that there's always this very vitriolic and knee-jerk reaction to try to tell Black women that you can't have any standards, specifically when these college-educated women who are doing very well for themselves kind of stand up and say that they only want to date at a certain level or above. So the discourse surrounding Clark and everything that she said about dating standards, it really hit home for me, because as someone who grew up in an upper middle class household, who has been afforded a lot of luxuries in life, I just don't see myself settling down with someone who could not give me that or more, and I shouldn't be made to feel bad about it.
It's not just the fact that they are struggling to be able to get the man that they want while being high earning Black females. There's also a whole other side to things where they don't want to settle down, they don't want to dim their light, and they don't want to have to compromise because it takes away from who they are and what they want. And that's another big reason.
Why are men, particularly Black men, always trying to humble Black women? I couldn't sleep last night, so I just started watching some random YouTube videos. I've been watching a lot of content about like social structures and dating and marriage, And I came across this man's video where he essentially spent 15 to 20 minutes talking about how black women need to humble themselves and lower their expectations of men if they don't want to end up single. And he said end up single as if like being single was like the plague or something. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with desiring marriage or a family, but what I am saying is I think that there is something inherently wrong with telling black women that if they are to seek a romantic partner, that they cannot aspire for the best that the world has to offer. It seems like there's this idea that's being perpetuated, especially among certain black men, that women should just settle for whatever is in front of them, and that if a woman wants a certain type of man, whether that be certain appearance, certain earning capacity, that she needs to change her standards simply because certain men aren't able to meet those standards. And I just don't think that that's fair to do. If a woman says she wants a 6'5", dark-skinned man that makes over $100,000, she has every right to desire that. Because nobody says anything to men when they say they want a light-skinned woman with hazel eyes and long sandy brown hair. And this particular video was just saying that it's unrealistic for black women to expect certain things from men if they want to get married. And I know that, it is not feasible for every black woman to be with a high-earning black man. There are simply, unfortunately, not enough of them to go around. But to tell women that they essentially need to lower their standards and humble themselves and just take whatever they can get if they want to be married, as if being married is just life's greatest accomplishment, I don't think that that is the rhetoric that we need to be pushing, especially among younger black folks. And I do think that marriage is an accomplishment, if you are able to maintain and cultivate a healthy relationship between two people. Like, that's beautiful. But nobody should be settling in a situation like that if they can help it. Also, this idea that women are less happy or less fulfilled when they're single is simply not true. A lot of research shows that the happiest women are unmarried and childless. And I think that a lot of these men make this sort of content because they are offended and hurt that they are unable to meet the standards of the women that they would like to be with. So they just make content in response to bash those women and make it seem like it's something wrong with them having particular expectations. That's all I have on that right now, but that really annoyed me, so I had to say something.
I'm marrying for love and money. I'm not picking one or the other. It's both or it's nothing. And please don't try to convince me that I can't have both, because you're not going to change my mind.
Black girl luxury means that I do not drive. I believe luxury is a matter of choice. And if I don't want to do something, I'm not going to do it. So if I don't want to drive, I'm not going to drive. And then people are like, well, how do you get around? How do you get groceries? I order them. Well, what if you need to go somewhere? I call an Uber. And I don't do Uber X. I do Uber Black. Oh my gosh, that means you're spending a lot of money on Ubers. Okay, well, and you're spending a lot of money on whatever you want to spend your money on, and that's your business. However, me and mine, we will Uber, and that's my choice and my decision. Black girl luxury to me means
I can't date a guy just for him, and he doesn't have anything to offer besides a personality or a smile. Do I date for money, or am I intentionally looking for a relationship? Both. It's not that I'm just dating for money. First of all, I have my own money. I've been having my own money since I was 21 years old. I made over 6 figures in 3 months with a hair business at 21 years old. Anything that I request from a man, I can do it by myself. However, I'm not going to waste time with any man who can't do things for me. I know what I like. It's nothing for me to go on Saks Fifth Avenue and spend $3,000 on perfume alone. I don't have time to date a guy who has never experienced that, who doesn't even have $3,000 to spare in his account, who's probably never had $3,000 at once. I can't try to explain a situation like that to a guy who's not on my level. So yes, the guys that I date, they do have more money. They're more on my level or above my level. I just can't sit here and explain why I do certain things that I do. I mean, the guys who I date, me going to spend $3,000 on perfume, that's not a big deal to them. They go spend that on cologne for themselves, or they're used to that. It's not a big deal. Me trying to date a guy without money just won't work. I tried to, like, I'm not gonna sit here and pretend. I tried to talk to her. You know, like, you hear, like, family and friends, oh, well, you should just try to date the guy for him and not for what he has, which I date the guy for what he has and him. It's not just about the money, because there's plenty of guys who have money. I left an ex who has a lot of money. So it's not just the money that I look for when I'm dating a guy. It's him and the money. But it just can't be only him. No, that's not gonna work.
So what you have with a lot of high earning females isn't just the fact that they are high earning. A lot of things actually contributes to that. And it's the main reason is not only that they're masculine, but they really do have these expectations, and people always speak about these expectations. But what are these expectations? Their expectation is money. They have very high expectations for the man that they want and how much he needs to earn and what he should deal with whilst having that money. And there's never room to compromise when it comes to females that earn a good amount of money or have a very successful career or has a degree, doctorate, master. They're never willing to compromise, because in their mind you are dimming their light. And you need to understand, when a female says you're dimming her light, it means you're taking away from who she is. It means you're cutting the best parts of her so she can fit into your life. It means you're taking away her self-esteem, her confidence, who she is. And when you take someone who they are, then you're really taking everything from them. And that's what these females advocate, is that settling down for a man and being with a man that isn't what they want is taking away who they are. Being submissive is also taking away who they are. Black females who are in this certain predicament, they can no longer be submissive because they're too masculine. They actually can no longer separate themselves from who they became at work and how they were able to attain that money to being a feminine woman at home. Which is why a lot of men just don't want to deal with that. Not just not dealing with someone that can't be submissive, it's dealing with a female who's always going to tell you that you changed her, that she is no longer who she is, that you took away her shine. Those are all the reasons why a lot of these females get divorced in the end. And when a female talks like that, that's all you're thinking, you know, in 5 years, 3 years time, she's gonna leave me because she has already this mindset is that I've taken away a big part of who she is. No man wants to deal with that. A man wants a woman to already be willing to be a feminine woman in that marriage and not feel like the man is forcing her and not feel like the man is changing her and willing to compromise, because he's gonna compromise too. It's not just one-way street. And a lot of consequences comes with a female with that mindset. You don't know when it's gonna end, because it will eventually end. Especially with someone that's never willing to compromise. And I'm not saying compromise who they are, but compromise for the betterment of the relationship and building with that man. There's a time cap in that. Because when she is not happy, then no one can be happy until she leaves. I'm your hostess, Feminine Princess. These are my last thoughts. There's always a talk about black successful females who can't do this, who don't want to do that. But really, the backbone behind that is their mindset and how they do not want to dim their light. They don't want to have to take away who they are. Those are big things to say. We all define ourselves based off who we are. And if someone is taking that from you, then essentially that relationship is over. And what a lot of these females are saying is the relationship is over before it's even started. Let me know what you guys think. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Bye.